Okay, thank you. So I would like to thank everyone who has joined. Yeah, it is another day proceeding with our sessions. I hope we are getting and learning more from these sessions. Before even we start the session, I would call upon everyone on this session. You spending 1 hour here, we should always make it productive to make sure that the 1 hour reproduces more output, which is visible on your end. I know we are somehow busy. Yes, I understand, but it is always the practice that makes perfect. So most of the times we always share a practice file, but we are surrounded by data. Just pick any data and make sure that at least you apply a few things you have learned from such calls. I know maybe 80% of the things or what we go through, you may already be knowing them, but at least 20% will always drip in as new to you. So let's always take it to our own, because it is you. Practice and reach out whenever you feel like something is not coming right. So today we are going to proceed with pivots. I will not be so loud, but if you feel like I'm going low, you can always tap me. I will share my screen. So we all have this document. I don't know whether Susan shared, but if not, then they will share with you. We know we are not following the chronological setup of how it is, but at least when you go through, you'll find that at least we are touching base everything that is noted here. We may not tell you that now we are going to look at this, then we are next looking at this, but the moment we start pivots and we say now we are looking at formats, which we did a bit last time, we are going to do a review on what we did last time. Then I will show you how we sort and group. Then we are going to look at how we create calculated fields and values. It is from there, maybe I will always request questions can always come through the chat, and Susan will be reading them out, and we shall always have a pause of some minutes to take a drip of water. It is then when we shall be interacting on some queries ongoing. So this is the file we used last time. I don't want us to dwell in too much data, but from your request, we shall always jump into search. But as of now, we are going to use the same file we used last time, such that most of the bit where we shall deal with much data, that is going to come in when we reach the advanced part. That's why I don't want to jump to that part before we reach it. So if you can remember last time, we created a pivot table from this data which we cleaned together here. And if there is any query on that, please, you can always raise it. And I also took through some of the principles of the formalities you have to check out always, like a date should always be aligned on which side for you to know that this is a date and this is not a date format. All that we went through. So when you come to, before you do a cleanup and you feel like my cleanup is, my data is clean, never initiate to start summarizing. You know, pivots is the way how we summarize to analyze data. So last time we created a pivot, we have always 4 sections in the field. I can call them 5. One of the sections stands for the fields or the columns that are in our data. Then, okay. Then the other field is always the filters. Then there is one which shows the columns. Then there is one for rows, and there is another one for values. So that's where we are going to concentrate on. And I've always told you that when you click outside the pivot, this field will always disappear because what you have selected, there is no pivot. When you click back in the pivot, it will always reappear. And if you have clicked in the pivot and it has not reappeared, just always go to pivot table analyze. You toggle it on or off from here. So if I don't want it to appear, even though I click in the pivot table, I will click on this field list and it will disappear. So when you click again, it reappears. So sometimes you may not need it when you have started doing the analysis bit of it or you're presenting. You don't need it to be flashing out. Some of the time you may be having a screen that is short and every time it flashes out, it hides some numbers. So you can always toggle it off from the pivot table analyze. Okay, last time what did we look through? We looked at how, okay, we put this back. How do you drop fields into rows, columns, maybe values? And what does it mean? How do you change the value settings? Always, if you want your data into to count or to average, or you need maximum, or you need a product, there are many, even there are standard statistics functions we have here at the bottom. Now, today I'm going to show you, in case you want to put your data in form of, you need some columns. We are going to look at some of, let me see, what can we pick out to summarize. We are going to summarize out by maybe material and commercial carriers. So there is one option, and I think even I sent it in the polls last Saturday or Sunday. Actually, yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. Where I was asking a brief question. So there is a question which was saying, when you're creating a pivot table, what is the purpose of recommended or something related to that? So when you always come to insert, we said the other time you can always create a pivot or you can create a pivot from the recommended pivot tables. So when you go to the recommended pivot tables, Excel has already analyzed for you that you can summarize your data in these formats. So you can summarize your data in the format of these are commercial carriers with the sum of the quantities, of which we feel like this is what we need, or it can be a start point of what we need. There is this, which you're summarizing, descriptions, material descriptions by their sum of quantities. There is this, which nearly we have the other end, which is summarizing quantities per day. Though here they are bringing us the exit quantity and the entrance, which we don't need. Then there is here, they are summarizing out by the users in the system who were producing these transactions. So you can go ahead and get many, many more summaries, but always Excel will give you this summary. So you can always use this as the starting point. Now, since this is the basic, let's go for what we know best. So we shall say we want to create a pivot, and this table is named table 2. I didn't tell you that sometimes you can name your table. The moment you select, when you go to table design, we can always give a name of your table. In case you have many tables and you want to have those tables named maybe in a certain chronological conversion, you can always name it. So if you want to name this as raw data, I can always name this as raw data, which means wherever I am in my Excel or in my sheet, wherever I call for raw data, it will always be this table popping out. So going back, when we are creating a pivot, you see it is showing us that we are picking a table called raw data. Last time we created a new worksheet, but this time we have a worksheet that is existing. So what I'm going to do, I have to click on existing worksheet. The moment you click on existing worksheet, it will ask you for the location. go there to that existing worksheet. This time I will say the location starts from here because we already have this pivot. I don't want to delete it. I'll skip like one column, or you can even skip two, independence that at some point you may want to expand this. So I can skip one, start from here. The moment you click there, it will copy for you the reference here that it is working sheet, cell G3. Then I'll go ahead and say okay. The moment I say okay, you see it will bring for me the framework of a pivot table. So what is next? Remember, when we started, I was telling you that, guys, never start analyzing data when you don't know what is the problem. So you don't have to solve what you don't know. Always we go to data to solve a problem. So if you were requested to analyze transporters, the way how their carriage is, that is already a problem. So you're looking for a solution. The solution is getting out the analytics lying in that. Then you know who is doing best and who is doing worst. So we are solving a problem. Our problem in the start, we need to know every transporter, the way how they are shipping out the different items or materials. So which means I'm looking at uh, commercial carriers. I'm looking at material IDs, or I can go with the description. Then the other thing, I'm looking at the quantity. So there you start breaking down the problem, which means you're looking for a solution. So for me to reach here, we cleaned that data. Obviously, we have done some part. So which means I will come this side. We're analyzing what the transporters are moving either daily or it can be monthly. We are going to know what it is. So the first thing, I will go and pick my commercial carrier, which is this. I drop it under rows. So you'll always drag and drop it under rows. When you just check it, it will always find the best option of the field to lie. Obviously, the commercial carrier cannot lie in values because it is not a number. It may lie in columns or it may lie in rows. It will not lie here because I have nothing to filter. So if you tick like this, you see automatically it appears on rows. So that is something you can always take up. Then, yes, we know that we have those without commercial carriers, which is, I think, XWorks, if I still remember right. Yes, this is the XWorks. Now, part of your data cleaning, now it's good it has come out. Part of your data cleaning, if you find out that you're analyzing commercial carriers and you have blanks like this, it means at the end of the day, we are going to have a challenge on to tell which drops appears where. So which means you can always come to this. You can find blanks and replace them. That is one option. You can find all the blanks and replace them. Then another option, you can filter out the blanks and fill them with something. You see all these are blanks. So you can filter them out and fill them with at least a parameter. So here the parameter I'm going to have is xworks, such that in our pivot table, we don't have a blank, which you'll reach in a meeting you're presenting. People don't know what the blank stands for because it's your data. So there are two options how we can sort that out or how we can fill it out. So you can filter like this, then we have xworks input here, then you'll go ahead and drag this to the bottom. If you don't need to do that, I will undo that. We also saw an option of saying, if I select the first cell and select up to the bottom, I know blanks are there, they are here, and I go to find and select here, then I go to special, then when I get special, I say, select for me the blanks, and I go ahead and do okay. no cells were found. Oh, now because it is a table, this one is not looked at as a blank, but we are going to now to use another option. If it was not a table, it was not going to select for us the blank. So you can go ahead and select out the blanks, then you give them a fill. So I can fill this with xworks, select this up to the bottom, that is, you press a shift and click the last one to select to the bottom. Now, there is a shortcut I want to show you. When you will always have selected a formula or it is a parameter in the first cell and you have selected the blank cells proceeding, you can always press a Control D. It will copy this up to the end. Or if you want, you can click on that and drag it as usual. So if I do a Control D, you'll see just in a blink of an eye, it has filled xworks up to the bottom. I repeat this. So if you always want to fill this xworks up to here, I will always select xworks up to where I want it to end. I want to fill all these with xworks. Then you press a Control D on your keyboard, it will fill those cells automatically. So even if you do it by error, that this number is selected like this up to here, and you do a Control D, it will fill with the first one. It will replace others with the first one. So you also note when you're using it. Now, those using shortcuts on the keyboard, if I want to run to the bottom, I can always press a shift down arrow, a control down arrow, then go to my blank, press a Control Shift, press up arrow. It will take me up to the top because I've already worked on that. So it will take me up to the top. Then you do your Control D. It will fill this with xworks. So that was by the way. I will clear the filter. Let's come back to our pivot. Now remember that we have cleared the blanks. Everything now is filled. How does this one not refresh? Why is it not refreshing? It doesn't refresh automatically. It will refresh when you do something else, but if you want to refresh, you can always go to Pivot Table Analyze, and you come here to on refresh. So the moment I click refresh, the xworks will automatically pick here. And since it was blank, it was on top because it was sorting up A to Z. That's why we have got a change. Obviously, the A to Z is also here. So this is what we have added. So we have added this in a kind of way because it is a principle when you're dealing with data. You don't have to analyze what is blank. You always have to fill it something. Fill there something which you feel that it suits all the blanks. If you need the blanks to be part of your data. Obviously, the blank commercial carrier, we know it is xworks. We needed it. I didn't want to split which xworks we have, but that one can be an added or another advanced stage you can go for. So, the challenge of copying information into cells without affecting the hidden ones is a real one. Now, when you always do the Control D, is always smart. It does for you. It does that in a smart way. Where you get a challenge, where you copy and you find even the hidden ones have been replaced, that's when you do a copy and maybe do a paste. But there is always an option when you do a copy and you want to do a paste, you can always go to paste special. Then you come here, you say, yes, I'm pasting special, but I'm pasting, yeah, where is it? Values, no columns with it. No. It's not part of this. There is where we paste values that we paste without considering. I think that is copying. No, it is not pasting. So is there anyone who has dealt with that before, Susan? just answering Rachel's query, that when
Yes.
you paste, sometimes it replaces the what is hidden. Could you maybe have an echo on that?
Yeah, I've always I think it's go to special where you paste to only visible cells.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't get that option because I had not hidden some. Let me first hide some like this. Then when we copy this and let's say we select here where we want to paste. So we go to paste special. Somewhere here it should be giving us visible cells, which I happen not to be getting. But
Mine
remember, we are
shows,
in a
I think maybe it's because of a table or something. Mine
no,
shows.
remember, because it is a table, there are some things which we may not get, because remember, table is a self-conduit. It is for it, it is self-reliance, like everything, what it has already done for you, it will not always bring it in the options. But we shall try that as we go forward. Rach, I presume you'll just get there to understand the difference between the two. So here we have summarized out now the commercial carriers. Now, what is next? We need our quantities. So I'll go ahead and drag my quantities and put them in the values section. Still, you can select, when you check, it automatically finds its level. So its level, it is a value automatically, it will go under the section of values. So it is at your liberty always to come and change this to what you need, either on value field settings to change whether you need counts, whether you need average, whether you need the maximum, whether you need the minimum. It's your choice. You know the problem you're solving. So for us, we shall need a sum, which you can always go here and change. But before you go that side, we said you always take your time, go on design, change this to tabular form, such that some of the headers will reappear as they are in the raw data, rather than before it was showing raw labels, because it had given us a default uh, report layout. So we shall always go to table form. So tabular form will always give us a chance that when we are adding other columns or adding other metrics here, it drops down in that chronological order, like how you saw the other time when we added the dates here. So you saw that it was dropping, giving first April remains blank. So that's what it gives you. Now, here now we know that what every transporter has shipped out, giving our totals that they are 47,000, but this is the split. So last time I showed you how you can put conditional formatting to know who is the best, who is the worst. Then, before I go further, if my problem, or if the problem of my manager or supervisor was, please filter for us the best 5 transporters for the data you've given, or month to date. This data was 1st to 20th. It was 1st to 30th. So now the problem comes that they want the best 5. How do we do that? So this is how you do it. You always go here on filter. Don't mind on filtering the fields, but we shall go directly on values. So when you go on value filters, there is a lot you can always play with. But at the bottom, there is something we have rarely used, or even we have rarely given attention, which is called top 10. Now, the top 10 doesn't mean that you only get top 10. So you'll customize it depending on your problem. So we shall always click on top 10. And when it pops out, that's where now you can go ahead and customize. You can customize bottom, you can customize top. You can change this number to whichever number you want. Remember our problem, we need 5 top transporters in volumes. So here I'll put a 5 instead for my case. And here they are saying you're doing this depending on the items. Yes, I'm looking at the items. You can also say I'm looking at the numbers. but this time we are looking at the items because, sorry. So we are looking at the items, then by the sum of the quantity. This is the aggregation we are using. So if I say okay, you'll automatically see that they will only give me the 5 best transporters. Now, this one is dynamic in a sense that if the next day Shaka's data reduced and some other transporter reappeared, it means that transporter will come, Shaka will disappear because he's no longer part of the top 10. Now we are going to test that. I'm going to go on this data, raw data. We look for one transporter who is not part, who is, let's take Freba. Is Freba part of this? No. So if we go to one of the data Freba, let me make this Freba's data, instead of 30, let me make it 3,000, such that this number goes up. Let's make it 3,000. Now, when you come to this said working, and I refresh my table, Shaka will automatically disappear because he was number 5. Freba has come in and he has become number 3. So this means that when you create a summary like this, it is already automatically dynamic. Every time your raw data shifts, here it will always give you the best 5. If you went for the bottom 5, still it will do the same. So if I can go there, go back on the top 10, I change now, I want 7, and okay, it will automatically now bring back Shaka as number 7, Mark comes as number 6. So that is how you can filter out by ranking. Like we need a rank of up to 5. And here you go, you get it like that. So it is always your choice to go back always and remove this by clearing the filter. So if I clear filter, I will again get my data in full, not forgetting that this one has to be taken back to 30. Okay, so if I take it to 30, then I will have to refresh. So the moment I refresh, it goes back. And I see, I don't know whether you saw even this data is changing. So all the pivots you'll have created, they will be changing dynamically. All the charts you'll have created from these pivots, it will be changing dynamically. Anyone who has not got that part before we proceed into another part, just by raise of hand or unmuting, for 1 minute, we can have questions dropping in, then we can go to something else. Okay, I think that is fine then.
We have learned the ranking.
Okay, that's fine. Then actually that ranking was by field. Sorry?
This is Samuel.
Yes, Samuel.
I needed a clarification. So the secondary pivot that we have generated, there is a correlation with the primary pivot, bearing in mind that for any changes in the quantities per the tonnages moved by the carrier definitely also impacts on the way the primary pivot or the first pivot will appear in terms of ranking as well.
Yeah. So
Okay.
all the pivots, all the pivots will adjust accordingly. Before we go further, when you always want to replicate your pivots, you don't need to go back and do the same basic steps. Just copy this pivot, skip like around 2 columns, paste this. So if I want now to rank by material, which means instead of commercial carrier, I'm going to bring the material. So I can carry the material code, dump it there, then I remove the commercial carrier by dragging it, and just the moment you drag it and take it outside this field, it will automatically go off. Or the other option can always be you go back to your field selector, you remove your antique commercial carrier. So this will be now by material. In case you are not good at codes, you can obviously change this. You can change it to material description, which means we no longer need the code. So here we go. Now, what I want to show you on top of
Chris,
that, yes.
there is a question. What if you delete the entire raw data and you replace it with new data? Can you keep the pivots?
What if you delete the entire raw data and replace
Data,
it with
yeah,
the new raw
with
data? Can you
yeah.
keep the pivots? Yeah. Yes and no. What if you delete this by right-clicking here and delete? It will not link, all your pivots will not link with another table you bring in. Even if you try hard to rename it exactly what the other one was, you may not retrieve your summaries you'll have done with pivots. The good practice is always leave the sheet raw. If you're going to bring the same data, same format, just remove the values and replace the values, which means I'll come here, select that, leave the headers, delete, which means I'm preparing this for another data, maybe for another month. Or I will just go and copy the other one, come and paste it here, but not deleting this. The moment you delete, you will have delinked your pivot tables from this table. But going forward in the advanced stage, for it is sweet to do, you'll find that even if you delete, you can link them again. But at this level, the basic one or the intermediate level of creating pivot tables, I don't recommend you deleting. If you're bringing the same data, same field, same columns, just copy the other data, come and replace it with this after deleting, which means if I go to my working and refresh, everything will disappear because the data is deleted. You get? So I will undo such that we bring back this data. So the moment you undo, I'll undo again. So the moment we undo and refresh, it will automatically pick again. So that question, I will answer it again when we reach a certain level to show you how it correlates different from this. But the basic of creating pivot tables and you're summarizing out, the moment you have got out a lot of summaries, you have got out a lot of graphings or charts or visuals, make sure that your source is always intact. Even if I renamed this, obviously, since it's the same worksheet, it will rename even how it is linking this side. But imagine you were referring one of the file, which is in another folder. The moment you go and rename that folder, you're doomed. You'll go back to your data. You have seen people crying that, you know what, all my sheet is showing href because it has looked for a folder that was called maybe August, and it is no longer there because the folder was changed from August to August 2023. So you always be mindful when you're doing changes, either renaming folders a lot, because the moment you are linking it to a document that you're using, if you're lucky, it will relink with the new name you have put. If you're unlucky, and that is 90% of it, it will always break. And when it breaks, you have to relink it again if you know where the changes have been done. So now, I hope we are together here. The other filter we did that is ranking by top 10, bottom 5, that one is always there. Then another one we said last time that you can add another column here, which you'll want to make as a ranking. So if I bring another column of quantity, I drag quantity the second time and I put it here. Then I right click on the second one. I go and say, show summarize we had summarize values and we had show values as. So when I come to show values as, there is always something to do with ranking. So when I go to ranking, there is saying rank smallest to largest or rank largest to smallest. We are going to try the two, then we see the difference. So if I say rank smallest to largest, and they're asking me, are you ranking commercial carriers? Yes, I would say yes. And here we go. Now they are giving me number one to be Renzori Cotton Ginneries. Number one in the worst, which means because we ranked smallest to largest. So when you say smallest to largest, which means you are taking small to be the best and large to be the worst. That's why you will see that number 17, if we can sort this, anyway, that's where you see number 17 is the highest. Yeah, number 17 is the one with is a bus having 5,471. Obviously would have been the first, so which means I will go back and say show values are, this time we rank largest to smallest like this. Oh, it was on fleet that was number one. So which means we have 8 transactions here, 18 transactions, yes, 19. Now this, here we go. So you find that it is ranking from number one going downwards. So you can always go ahead when you right click in that column and you say sort, largest to smallest, it will rank largest as number one, the smallest as number last, because we ranked largest to smallest. So here you automatically have a rank. You can easily tell who is number 14. So I don't have to keep counting to make sure that I know where your covenant is lying. When you put your rankings, you automatically know covenant is number 14 at every point. So when we do the other ranking, the filter of hours, and we say top 7, maybe if I can say top 7, it will automatically give me number 1 to 7, because now I know the ranking here and I'm filtering the rank by the top. Now you will understand that with pivots, when you filter, it doesn't hide the rows. I don't know whether you have realized that. When we come this side in raw data and you filter, let's say you remove a bus, you'll see that some rows are hidden. But when we come to when we come to pivots, when you filter, it will always filter that pivot. It will not touch any of your rows in that sheet you're working in. So don't get worried that if I filter here, some of them are going to get lost. Now, the other filter you may do, some people may come and say, okay, let me come here, remove fundis, and remain that way. Still, it will filter only this pivot. It will not hide any rows. Than if this data was independent. To drive the point home, let me do like this, copy this, and we paste it here as values such that it doesn't come as a pivot table like this. Then we put our filters. Then now when we filter this time and remove fundis, you'll automatically see that rows get hidden. The moment you'll always see the blue coloring in the row numbers, know that there are rows hidden. You'll always have to find for those, to look for those rows. So now you find that when we create summaries in this form, we get hit a lot. Imagine you were having some data here. Let's say a plant, and you were having maybe totals, and here I have that number. No, this is plant 001 U and 081 U. Now here we have, let's say, those numbers, and we have those numbers. Then we have maybe another plant number MV, like this. Then we have those numbers. Now, let's do our filtering. We see how it is going to affect us when you do a lot of things manually like this, if you don't know pivot tables, or if you have not attended this session. So you'll come here, remove the fundis. Yes, it's good you have removed them. But do you know that you have removed the fundies? This data you have hidden it and you'll want to look at it at some point. And imagine you are in a presentation and you'll have to unhide the data you hid because you want to unveil some numbers. So it becomes confusing a lot, but always have this in pivots. Pivots will sort you. I don't know whether we pick up that, but it is a principle you have to use. Now even if I don't note out the advantages of using pivots, you note them. I know there are very many, but those are the advantages sometimes. So I will go ahead and cancel the filters I have. Still, you can go ahead here and rank. Last time I showed you how you do conditional formatting. Just select the data, go to condition formatting, come on color scales, have it a color scale like this, which means you see on fleet, because it is having a high difference between this and this. That's why you don't see other greens, but these ones change automatically to amber. And because there is a significant drop also here, that's why you see that red doesn't move smoothly, but that is it. So that's how we do a conditional formatting. We did that last time. Just to give you a hint, a clear view which is direct, you don't have to think a lot. Then you may want to think a lot here. Number one is presenting highest or lowest. Now, this time I want also to show you bars. How do we use bars? Imagine they didn't want to look at values. We just need to look at the trends between these transporters. So just come on conditional formatting. This time, we are not going to use the color scales. I'll come here and use the data bars. The data bars, pick the color you feel that is comfortable for you. Go with that. So if I want to use the green, then I go with this green. So it will always give you the data bars. And you may want to hide these numbers. You may want to hide the numbers. Let's go to more here on bars. Go to more rules. Now, a lot of rules are this side. How you can filter, how you can how you can scale up your data to look better than it is. So here you see there is format cells showing data bars. Those are the data bars we have, which means we can select the three colors from this side as how it was before. The icons, I showed you the icons last time. So since now we are looking at bars, you can show what you want as a minimum, or you want to show by percentage or maximum by percentage. You can go ahead and change even the bar appearance by changing the colors here, the borders, and a lot. If you want it to run from the left to right, which is it is doing now, someone else may want it to run from the right to left, which means if I do right to left and do okay, you'll see the bars will be starting from right going to left. Then, how do we remove the numbers? There are two ways how we remove numbers. But let me show you the only way maybe, which is always best to use. When you always go to, sorry, I have to first move this. When we always go to number formatting here, and you go to general, or you go to custom, you can always change this custom. The moment you put 3 semicolons, 1, 2, 3, and you do okay, the numbers will always disappear. So you can always, that is a trick we use always if you want to hide numbers. Even if you had data that is part of the sheet, but you don't want people to see it. Let's say if we copy this data, and it is part of any sheet, like here. And I want to present maybe some other things here. Let's say, let me just make it reality. Let's put a graph to just have it a reality. Let me put this parental graph here. Now, I want to present this graph, but I don't want the people I'm presenting to look at these numbers. Yes, there is an option you would hide them and say, make them white. Like you select all this and you say, okay, make all this, change the font to white. They will disappear, but there is some formatting that is remaining. The best option is always select this, go to number format, go to custom, put 3 semicolons. That is like a hack you can always use. 3 semicolons like this. The moment there are 3 and you do enter OK, it will hide. But the problem when you're doing it with a chart, it will automatically change even the chart the way it is looking, because it has changed the format of the chart. But we shall come to that in an advanced way. So that one I was trying to show you here, that I can hide numbers and remain with the bars. Actually, I can remove the other formatting, clear the format. So if you want to clear the formatting, you can come here, clear selected cells. Now here. So we clear the formatting. I want only bars. So I will first clear the formatting, then I go ahead and put the bars. You can choose any color you want, and you'll be good to go. So you see now, ideally here I have numbers. When I click on that cell, you'll see numbers in the formula bar, but I've hidden them because we didn't want the numbers. Maybe a report I'm preparing, a dashboard I'm preparing, I don't need the numbers. I just want, if someone looks at number 1, he knows that HIMA Cement Limited Fleet is number 1, not even looking at the numbers. Maybe numbers will be in another metric or in another chart, something to do like that. Because the most thing you'll have always to make sure that you put in mind is never have a report that has duplicates. You're reporting commercial carriers, but you have 2 charts, which all of them are showing chart quantities, volumes. It becomes a misuse of space or misuse of resources. So that's why I'm heading numbers here. Maybe at some point, I'll have another data that is showing the volumes. Maybe it will show the volumes by ranking or filtering out to the best 5. So that is it. And I think it was part of the today's here grouping data. We did that using label filters. We have used value filters to rank. We have enabled multiple filters. We have done that. We have done the 2 at once. So now we are going to look at how do we group our data. So then what else I've done here? We did all this. We have used the data bars with invisible text. This is a pro tip I was introducing to you. Like, you use the data bars, but you hide the text. So we have done that. Now, let's look at grouping data. Okay, here we go. Now, there is a scenario where you'll be requested. You have always seen, I think I can delete these. You have always seen where you find data is 1 to 10, like that. This is already, it was in a date format. Let's change it. Okay, we had data here, right? Oh, this is 1 to 10, then maybe 11 to 20, 21 to 30. This is 11 to 20. So you have always, should have always asked you that, can you create for us a frequency table, like let's say a distribution table, because this shows the distribution. How many do you have between 20 and 21? How many do you have between 11 and 20? How many do you have between 10 and that? So it will always come from your data. We are going to look at how do we do grouping when we have pivot tables. Now, I don't know whether I can go with this. Yes, I can take this. Now, this, or we can take again our data here. We can copy this. Then I will filter, paste values. I'm first going to do a basic one, then we shall do from our data. So this is this is quantity, sum of quantity, or we can call them volumes moved by each of the carrier. And we are told we need to group this. So I'll select my data as always. Since it is not a pivot, that's why we may not do it. Let me do it directly from here. Let me deal with this. So here I'm going to remove, okay. So when we come to pivot table analyze, there is data we can easily group, and there is data we can't easily group. So we have, when you select this data, you have to always look at the group section. When the group section is not giving you anything, it means that you can't group that data. So here you see that we are having the group field and group, they are all unselected. Now let's go back to our data, raw data. I want to pick out, actually, let's go with the entry weights, such that we can group the tire weights of every truck. So these are the entry weights. So I'm going to pick the entry weights by doing this. You can say create a pivot as how we have done always. Let me put this one on a new sheet such that it doesn't, let's use the existing sheet. So we go to the existing sheet, that is our working sheet. We shall skip one column, use that. Okay. Now, here, I want to bring the tire weights or the entry weights. So you'll come and drag the entry quantity in rows. The moment you drag in rows, it will break down all of them. You see, I think we have to reach the highest is 25.58. Now, what next should we drag? We are going to drag the same quantity such that we count on each how the existence on each, how many times or the frequency it was appearing. So we shall carry the same quantity entry weight and put it here. But this time we don't need it to sum because we need it to count. We know how many have 5.3, how many have 5.32 going downwards. So I'll come here, value field settings. This time I say, please, I need this to be counted. So it is going to count for me. And this, I will call it frequency, like that. The number of times, we have 4 transactions that have tire weight of 5.3. We have 7 transactions that have a tire weight of 5.32. You have been given a problem. Please distribute for us the tire weights. Those ones from 1 to 10, from 10 to 15, from 16 or 15 to 20, from 20 to 25. That's what we need. Then we know that in this plant, most of the trucks, their tire weights are in this range. Now, here, what did you do? The moment you click anywhere in this data and go to, I have to click one cell. When you click more than 2, which means you have already done a manual grouping, I've grouped this and this in selection. So you'll realize that when I select more than 1, this group field disappears. But the moment you click on 1 like this, the group appears again. So we want to group, then I will click on the field, group field. Let's pay attention, ask a question if you don't understand this part. 10% of people who use pivot tables actually even know that it exists. So let's take a question and ask as many questions as you can. So we shall go on group field. Now, when it brings this dialog box, it will ask you, guy, do you want us to start from 5.3? No, you'll say, they told me to start from 1. Because 5.3 was a default because the data you are picking is 5.3. But you'll say, me, the problem they gave me and the solution I have to present, they want from 1 to maybe 10. So then go next, it will say we are ending at this. Maybe they told you to look for up to around 26 or 30. You can always keep the norm and say, they said the maximum should be 30. Even though my data is having up to 25, there is a possibility the next day, there is a truck will come with more than 25 and I may miss it out from my summary. So that's why I'm stretching it. Now, here, by, that is the difference. So when you say by 1, which means it's going to do 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 5 to 6, 7 to 8, it's up to you. Now here we are going to do by 5, such that it does 1 to 5, either 5 to like that, 15 to 20, 20 to 25, 25 to 30. So going after you have done that setting, you do okay. And boom, there you go. It will filter for you 1 to 6 because we said the difference we need 5. But if this is not what you wanted and you felt like you wanted the 5 here, go ahead and go back. It means that you needed this to be a 4 because that's the difference. So it starts from 5 to 9. Actually, it has dropped the other one. No, the one is there. That's a 4. Yeah, we go. So I think it is defaulting since we can't go, because if it does 1 to 5, we have nothing between 1 to 5. That's why they are not giving us 1 to 5. I don't know whether you people, you get it. When we did a difference of 5, because we have 5.3, and here they are doing 1 to 6, because we have something to do with 5.3, that's why they are giving us 1 to 6. So you notice it doesn't give you headache. So the moment you have done this, you have already done your distribution. You can go ahead and even put the format, the conditional formatting. I like this because it easily tells people what is best and what is worst. So here you automatically tell people that, by the way, all the tracks we receive in this plan, their tare weights are always between 17 and 21. There are only 13 transactions you have done beyond 25. There are 39 transactions which have been below 9, or between 5 and 9. So it is from here where you can go ahead and you do your formatting here like tabular. And this is the entry quantity. You can go ahead and customize it and call it tare weight, because the people you are presenting to don't want to know about entry weight. They want to know about tare weight. So it is from here you can go ahead and create a simple chart. So you go to chart, always first ask Excel to recommend you, and to recommend you by giving you this. But at this point, we can always also have a histogram. So if we look at histogram, no, it's not giving, because, yeah, I know the reason, maybe I may not explain it now. So for now, let's go with a bar chart. You can go with a bar chart, okay? Then it's from this, you can go ahead and remove these buttons by removing buttons like this. Then if I want to enlarge these columns, click on one of the columns, right click, say format, format data series. It will bring another section at the extreme end. Now, this is the time when I told you that you may not need these field chart settings, fields. You can always go ahead and shut them down here, toggle them on and off. This is the point where you don't need them, because they will keep popping. Now, here we need to increase the gap width by removing this. So you can go ahead and increase it. Increasing the gap width reduces the width of the charts. But if you want to reduce the space, you take on the other side like this. So you can go ahead, and here you can formally make it a histogram by putting the gap width to 0. But going forward, I will show you how we make a histogram automatically directly from your data. So this is the overlap. We may not look at the overlap now. You can leave it at 0 always. You can leave it at 0. We shall talk about overlap later. You can come here, you add data labels. You can go ahead and do a lot, and another thing you have to know, you don't have to put a lot of things for you to send out a communication. You know, we don't mind on the beauty, we mind first on the context your presentation carries. Even though you make it beautiful, so long as it doesn't carry the context, you're doomed. So then here you go, you can go ahead and do the other bit. You can customize your headers. A lot can be done here. Since we have data labels, you may not need this. You may not need the grid lines. Select them, delete. You may not need this horizontal bar. Select it, delete. You need the horizontal, that is automatic. Then you may need the axis at the bottom. People know what is at the bottom. Those are tear weights. I'll come here on axis. Then you only activate axis title, sorry. You only activate the horizontal one. So you come and rename it by giving it a name, which was our tear weights. So I think it is today where we have done an output that the data you summarize, this is something you can come up with. So here you find that this one is clearly communicating. The moment you put a header that is communicating the context, you don't have to explain yourself in a presentation. People will just know that 17 to 21, they are the highest, and the lowest is 25 to 29. Which means if it was a project to make a decision, how the material they should buy for the way bridge, it means we shall tell the supplier to quote for load cells that can weigh most of the trucks that lie between 17 and 21, because the 13 are occasional. And we shall not dwell on the 5 which are less weight, because we have this number. So we have already done a decision. We are going to quote for materials for the way bridge. We are telling the vendor that, you know what, anything you should quote for us, it should be managing 17 to 21 in the highest frequency. And there we go. Then I think we have gone now 1 hour, exactly 1 hour. I'll take a break of 2 minutes for you guys to ask questions. And if there is anything formative, you can communicate it. If it is a supplementary that we can have on our recording, you can pass it. But otherwise, you can keep mute as we listen in. But I need someone to unmute and speak over that. Anything?
I saw you grouping, I think, manually, and then I thought you're going to use it to relate to this. The other sheet where you are doing something.
No, I dropped that. I dropped that because it was going to deviate from the topic we are on. We are completely, that's why I'm making sure that I don't deviate from pivot tables. It was going to drive us into something else that is not pivot tables.
Okay.
Yeah, but with pivots, that's what you always go with. To make a recap, is we went to our data. We have to resurrect our field list here. So we went to our data, we pulled out the quantity weight, we put it in rows. It spread up to the bottom. Then we brought its frequency by bringing the same quantity on the values, and we changed this to counts. After changing that to counts, we went and selected one of them here. We went to group field list. It gave us this dialog box. We set up this in dependence on how we need it, where we should start and where we should end, but always to give you a default of what the data has. The difference, it is up to you how you need it. Sometimes when you put here a difference, it may give you like 2 lines and you want it to spread. So you can always play with this to make sure that it brings out something like this. Then it is after that, don't mind on the format, conditional formatting, that was just to look at which one is greater. Then we came up with a chart by selecting this, going to insert, then we are recommended a chart which we formatted that way. Then if you want to revert all this, just select the same column or the same field, you do ungroup. The moment I do ungroup, you see how, you see what happens. This is what we would have done if we didn't know groupings. This is the graph that you would have presented out from this report. So the moment, exactly now, the way how I told you that when you create your charts, imagine this is on a dashboard, on another report, on another sheet. The moment you do any change here, let's say, well, let's take back our grouping. We group 1 to 30, 1 to 30, and we want a difference of 4, like this. Okay, boom, it is dynamic. The moment you change this to, let's change our field settings and we change this to 10. Here we go. We only get 3. This, that, and the other one. Then when you can go ahead and do a lot of changes, but the moment you are dealing with pivot tables, know that you are covered, that it will always be dynamic. I think that is it now. Any other question?
Chris, kindly revise the labeling. How did you change the labeling from something frequency to tire weight within a pivot table?
Here, from tire weight or from here to changing the label from frequency
you changed
to tire
that
weight.
where there's tire weight, yeah. Where there's tire weight, there was something.
No. Oh, there was an entry weight. It is just a matter of selecting that header. You can change from here or you can change from here. The moment I delete this, I can put a custom. Let me put full one tire weight like this.
Submitting.
Yep.
There is some data that you displayed which is ungrouped, and that kind of graph, I've ever seen it when the president was addressing the nation during COVID to show the trends. In your just ungroup and we have a look at it.
That's why we are trying to make the world a better place to live in. So, and always when you see that, just recommend. So when I ungroup this is what we get.
So these people actually someone like Sabiti probably. This is what
no, sometimes you may want to look at a trend, but this data was not for trends. Because imagine if we had time here, or a date or a month, it will automatically pick sense that on this day we had this high, on the other day we had the other high. But in dependence on the data we are looking at, obviously you have to group. I don't remember what the president was showing because I never used to watch those shows.
Was a trend.
Me and Brian
never used such a graph.
Sorry?
I have seen also, I've got such a graph with a lot of data. So I've got the trick.
Okay, so you can always go there and group. And grouping may not be only for this. Grouping may be for dates. We saw how we did grouping for dates. Like you can group dates to show weeks without having another field put in your raw data. Let's say I'm going to pick these dates. Let's do another something else. Let's take back our fancy graph. That's a grouping part of it. So let's pick another. We are going to pick dates, then we pick quantities. So doing this, I will still click in my data, insert pivot, but I don't have to do that when I already have a pivot table that is seated here. So you can always pick one of them here because it is from the same data source, and you can paste it. Actually, I'm moving this chart at the bottom here such that I have space to do the other part of my work. So I can skip like around 3, paste here. The moment I paste, I can change, I'm going to change this. Now let's recover our field list. So this time we want date. Remember we have 2 dates, one that is formatted well, another one that is not formatted. So I'll carry this date of mine, drag it here. throw out this. It is actually throw out. Just drag it and throw anywhere you want, it will go. Then I can leave quantities there. I can leave quantities there because we need to look on every day. How was the matching? So now the changes here, when you click on any of the cell and come to pivot analyze, when you go to group field, this time Excel has the IntelliSense to know that what you have brought is, they are not numbers, but they are dates. And it will automatically show you, okay, we are starting from here, we are ending here. What do you want? This time it will give you what do you want. Do you want by days, by months, by hours, by minutes, by second, whichever. So if I say by days, I'll click days. And how many number of days do you want us to split? I will say, my dear, split every 5 days. Or I will say split every 7 days, because I know 7 is my week. But you can note it also that this is my Monday. You can go and look for a date which is a Monday if you want your data to be in that chronologic. So I will say, okay, here it will bring me my dates grouped from 1st to 7th, from 8th to 14th, from 15th to this, and it is dynamic. So the moment I create a chart here, now let me show you a trick. So this graph, that is another advanced level. Let me leave it. Let's go with our basic. Select here, or even if you click anywhere, you can always go to design. Sorry. When you are using pivot tables, actually you always don't even need to go to insert, because when you are in pivot table analyze, itself has its own pivot chart. And when you click on recommended, let's stick on the pivot chart. When we come on the pivot chart, it will give us the recommendations here. You can go ahead and pass through. This one may be somehow appealing from this to this, but since we have grouped, it will automatically either be a column chart or it will be a histogram. I will tell you, there is a reason why a histogram is not showing. We shall look into that in another level. So here we shall go with this. Again, okay, this is it, which means you can change this date format. You can go ahead and change this by right click, then you change chart type, no. Yeah, and the numbers, the labels, no, it is numbers. So on the numbers here, we can have a custom, and remember these we had customized. Let's custom by day and month. No, it has not worked out. Okay. Let's not drag this. Let's take it back to Geno. Now, changing this, I will keep it for when we reach charts. Here you can go ahead and remove the buttons by clicking on any of the buttons. You go on the chart, pivot chart. That's where we have field and buttons. So you remove the buttons from here. But when you always need the buttons like this one where you can filter, you can always remove one of the chart, and when you say okay, it will disappear. So you can use this as a filter, but it doesn't look smart. So you can get that one off. You do all the other dynamics. We can always change the format of date from here. Here, number format. Then we come to custom. We shall remove the year and we say okay. Oh, sorry. For dates, the format has to change from directly the raw data. because when you're grouping, it is so much sensitive that you have to keep there. Let's leave it that way. But you have to change from the other raw data that it comes when it is not giving there, then you'll have it more briefed here. But at the moment, still it can present your data. If you come here, you come and reduce this, put this to 0, and add labels, add labels like this. Then this was sums, but we needed counts. We can go with counts just to count the trips on. So between 1st and 7th, we had 391 trips. Between this and this, we had 340. That way, you find out that you have created something small in that summary. I was telling you to remove buttons. You can always go here, you unselect buttons, they will disappear. So you can always go put the heading on the left. Do all what you can. You can change always this heading to depict exactly what you're presenting. Then when we reach the real dashboard, developing a real dashboard, that's when I will show you some of the things. But for now, let's first think in these. I don't want to take you on a high speed like how someone said. So guys, that's how we group. Any question from that? I think we have repeated it twice. At least you should be picking out something. But you'll have to get this very well and perfect if you practice. Get any data, just rush through these steps. It will be good to go. Any question?
I have a question.
Yep.
Outside grouping, it could be related, but I think it could also be outside. On the count, there is a part where you did count of trips. Is there a way you can do a pivot of count per truck? Because a truck can do a number of trips, that you can know which truck has done which trip, how many trips.
Oh, now that, yes, that now comes into another summary that may not need to be on a chart, because now you're looking at three dimension. You're looking at a date, you're looking at a truck, and you're looking at a value, which is a count. So it means that it becomes hard for you to put it on this 2-dimension chart. It will require you to have either 3-dimension chart, showing you some of the 3-dimension charts here. The 3-dimension charts we have, first of all, we have a radar. We have, which other is this 3-dimension combo, which can always have 3 things. But now since our tracks, we have like 40 tracks there, the data is going just to spread. Because in that ideal, you would have maybe carried the tracks into, I don't know whether I'm answering the question, Susan. You would carry the tracks into, where is vehicle? It is named as track, into columns. You see the way how it spreads, and the maximum number of data series that you can have 255, which means your tracks have exceeded 255. So sometimes those are the challenges you come up with. So if I can again answer another option, did you say like, here there is a tracker that brought like 7 trips. We want that tracker to appear once. Like we want to count the number of tracks.
Can actually be outside. I think I was taking you back just to know how I can do a pivot of trucks and trips. Just that.
Actually, not necessarily trucks. For any, actually, the thing is, you're asking for any wording. Could be names. I have names of people that have appeared. Like every month, I see this person's name there in HR attendance. I want to know which person worked how many days. So basing on the names other than any other variables.
Question 2.
Okay. That is question 2 exactly. The other one was question. So let me answer all the questions. Let's copy our default. I think you see how I'm using my working sheet. You can always have your working sheet having everything. You don't have to keep your data scattered. So you can always have it, but make sure that you're smart, that you keep going on the right. So let me paste this one here. The first question is, what if this material description was not material description, was tracks? So what if
It could
we
actually
have
be,
tracks here?
it could actually be
Like this.
transporter and truck.
Oh, now if you need a transporter, you can always choose who is the highest. Now, if you need a transporter, the reason why I was telling you to always put in tabular form, this is it. So which means if I bring the commercial carrier here, like this, no, I have to click in this data. So commercial carrier here, dump it there like this. So you see that we have added commercial carrier, then every bus, it drops down their bus. So which means we can change this to the number. If I'm not mistaken, we change it to the count. So you'll see that this Abbas's truck, this one has had 3 trips in that month. This truck has had this, which means if you want to only look at transporters, it is at your own disgrace. Like you come here, you right click, and you collapse all and group. No, it is collapse all. It is supposed to be collapse. Share details. Here. So we have collapse field and group. So if we say group and collapse, this is the difference. So the moment you collapse, which means it will not break down by track, which means if you want a bus only, you can click on the plus of a bus and you look at all the tracks of a bus. That is like another extended way of how to summarize your data. Like here it is giving you the number of trips created by every transporter, but if you want to look at by tracks, you go ahead and expand. It will drop down a bus. Now this is where you come in and say, by the when we go to design, there is something they call repeat all items, such that it will repeat a bus until a bus ends. It will start Bamiko until Bamiko ends with subtotals. So still it is up to you if you need the subtotals or if you don't need them. You can always remove them from here. Or if you need the grand totals or if you don't need them, you can always also remove from there. Then the other option, Susan, can be that you have the trucks, you have the commercial carriers as columns and the trucks are this side. But that one spreads for no good reason, because you'll find that a truck is having blank all over and it has to look for where it lies. That's where it will have to appear, which doesn't carry any sense. So this is the best you can always go for. So the other question, the question 2 was looking at what? Okay, the question 2 was looking at how many, if this truck, where trucks, if this truck was coming in the number of days, do we have to put, which means when you put, Brian, first repeat your question 2 before I get you lost.
I told this one, said my name. I say I have names, for example, Sabiti, Susan, Brian, Oba, Chirunda, but they have done some kind of operations in a certain, maybe weekly, maybe they bring in something, but I want to know how many times is Sabiti appearing? How many times is in my pivot? Yeah.
So ideally now, this is what I've done. This track appears 4 times. This one appears this time. Like even how we had done, I think it is a matter of doing counts. The moment you do counts, it will count for you how many times that track is appearing. Now, the beauty of it is here. I think I need to introduce this for the 30 minutes remaining. I know you should have ever heard about slicers. So a slicer is something that we are going to use much when you're creating your dashboards. So how do we come up with slicers? A slicer is an extended filter, or I can say an advanced filter. instead of coming here to filter by track, or instead of thinking about, now how can I remain with only a bus, but I need only these two columns. Okay, this is count. I need only these two columns, but I don't need to add the commercial carrier here. So you can always come make the commercial carrier a slicer. So you'll always come to the fields in your report here. You look for the commercial carrier, right click on the commercial carrier and say, I want to add you as a slicer. So the moment you say add as a slicer, it will always come as a slicer like this. I know you should have looked at this slice at some point, but today we are going to use it more. So this is the slicer, which means when I click on a bus, I'm in a presentation, all these vehicles it has brought, they are only for a bus. They have done 183 trips. And indeed, you saw last time we had 183 trips somewhere. Then when you click on Bamiko, it will bring you only the Bamiko tracks. When you click on Covenant, it will bring only the Covenant tracks. When you click on this, it will bring
Excuse me, Sabiti.
Yep.
I'd lost the birth rate. Just if you don't mind in 1 second, how do you made this?
Okay. We have a filter here, a slicer. Okay, we need to create a slicer that is going to filter either our pivot or one or many, depending. Let's go with commercial carrier. So when you go to your field selection pane, you right click on the commercial carrier, you say, I want to add a slicer. So the moment it brings that as a slicer, why are we adding slicers? You may not need to add a commercial carrier in the table, but we need to filter by this. So that's why I'm adding this. So before we go to how we format it, this is the way basically it will always appear. So which means when I select Bamiko, it will only bring vehicles for Bamiko. Then I'll see Bamiko has done, this has done 8, this has done 8, this has done like that. When I click on Freba, it will only bring the Freba tracks. When I click on Bamiko, like that. When I scroll down here, maybe Leeway, it will bring the Leeway tracks. Now, you can have as many slicers as you can, which means I can go back to the pivot, pick another slicer. This time, let's take the material description. So I'll right click here, add another slicer for material description. Now, because I've selected Leeway, that's why you see here other materials are faint because they are not part of Leeway. The moment I select Christian, it will here show you that Christian has done only 3 material descriptions. Now, let me remove all this. Now, the moment I select Fundi, it means that I've selected only tracks that have done Fundi. That's what it means. Because now I'm playing with my filters. You're going to have more than like 5 filters on your dashboard. This is the way you'll be playing with the dashboard. That's what we call interactivity, interacting with your data. You'll find that every time you click on a slicer, your graph will be changing automatically. The graph you'll have created from the data you have will be changing automatically. Now, that is it. Now, if you want to change some settings of the slicer, this is what we do. You either right click and say slicer settings, or you come to slicer, you'll always find slicer settings here. So the moment you go to slicer settings, there are a few settings which are unknown. So there are settings which are saying ascending to descending A to Z. That one is always our what we like. Then there is something here we'll always request you to look at. Here they are saying hide items with no data. Now you saw the other time when we selected Fundi and some transporters disappeared, but they remained faint. When you don't want them to appear completely, you come always and select this. Hide items with no data. The moment I say okay, and now I come to Fundi, it will hide all the other transporters and will only show me that only these 3 transporters have done 50 Fundi. If I click Power Max, it will only bring the transporters that have done Power Max. In another filter, such that if I'm to filter this side, I don't have to hustle a lot looking for whom to click, because they have given me only 3 options: either Mark, which is 1 track, Hima Cement, which has 5 tracks, a bus, which are 2 tracks. Then this one is clearing. So let me go back to that setting, this one, and we remove that button. You see what I'm talking about. Okay. You see that when that button is there, what didn't do Fundi is find. And remember, when we are working with a dashboard, you don't need this to appear because they are no longer part of your business, since you only need to look at Fundi. The same thing, you can do it for the other side. You create settings here, slicer settings, and you hide items with no data, which means the moment I click on Xworks, it will only bring items or materials that have ever been shipped by Xworks. Then when I click on Power Max, it will bring only those which have done Power Max. When I click on Superset, it will bring those who have done Superset, like that. Now, that is done and dashed off. The charts are becoming very many.
You know how we have
saying
been
that
suffering.
it's interesting.
In fact,
Sorry?
when you repeat even,
We're just saying
excitement
it's
is
interesting. You're making our life easy.
Rachel was
No
appreciating
questions.
this, eh?
No questions, just appreciation.
So
Yeah,
I thought there was questions. Okay, I will read the appreciations later. Now, that is one way. Now let's cancel. I no longer need these slicers. Now we are going to create a calendar now. Now, when I go to date and right click on date, now you'll see that date has 2 things. It has a slicer and it has a timeline. So if I begin with a slicer, which we have done before, which is this, you'll see it is going to give us that. So in case you had changed the date to only give you only day, but why can't we do it? Let's go to our raw data. We create a sheet here, right? Since we have done this before, we create a sheet here that is insert, no. Insert a sheet here. I've inserted the sheet. We call this day. Because I want to create a slicer that is like a calendar. So you know what we are doing. I'm not going to repeat this. Someone read for me what can I use to pick out a day? Equals to?
equals date value.
Equals to day. Equals to day. We said equals to day. So you pick the serial and enter. So if it brings this, because there was a date, so we are going to change this format because we need it. We need it customized because we only need a day. And please bring the 2Ds such that a 1 should stand as a 0, 1, such that we have consistency. So I'll do okay. Then I can drag this up to the bottom. So that is the day we have. Now, let's go back to our pivots. So when you come to our pivots, now, you know the beauty thing now we have done is, even if you have added a column, since this was a table, it has adjusted accordingly. But if you had this just as a plain data, it means when you add a sheet, this U, which has extended on the extreme right, may not be read. I am saying may not, may or may not. But the beauty with working with tables, that is it. We come to our working file again. Please refresh to make sure that they pick that date. When you come to our field selection field here, the day is not there because we haven't refreshed. So refresh, it will automatically appear. But it has not changed anything. Obviously, we didn't need it to change anything. So what we need is creating a slicer using a day. So when it creates a slicer like this, I will say, okay, I know a slicer I want to create by week, 7/7 at least. So right click on this, go to settings, This time, no, actually we don't go to settings. When you've clicked on the slicer, you'll always have a tab here for slicer. When you go on slicer, it will always show you the number of columns you have. Currently, we still have 1 column. So I want to get 7 columns. So I'll click on 7. The moment you click out, it will bring the 7. So I will enlarge this. So it will be like a calendar now. So the moment I want to see what was done on first, I click on first, it will pop. You click on second, it will pop. You click on third, 9. So here you can interact with your data as you present. So let's make sure, let's take this back to quantities. Let's take it back to commercial carrier. Commercial carrier here and counts. Now it means here that on 7th, a bus did 13 trips going downwards. If I click on 6th, it will adjust for 6th. If you want more than 1 day,
Sabiti, excuse me, Sabiti.
Yo.
The slicer for the date, in which column did you drag the date before you requested for the slicer?
No, I added a date column in this side because when I used the date, they became so huge. I added a date column here. After adding a date column, I came, this side on my working sheet, refreshed, and the day appeared here. I right-clicked on this, I said I want a slicer. And here we go. It gave me this slicer. So the moment I clicked on the slicer, I went on the slicer pane. You adjust the columns from here. Even if you want 10, it will give you the 10 in 1 column like this. So you'll find that you have a dashboard and you have something like this, where people have to select 7th, 6th, and analyzing data. You can even click on first, press a shift, click on 7th, it will select for you from 1st to 7th. If I click on 14th and press a shift, click backwards 8th, it will run backwards. Like I want a difference of those days. Now,
Sabit, can you color it as well?
Sorry?
Can we add color to it?
Yes. Let's see how we can add color, and let's try with red. So you have a lot of styles here. You can go ahead and look into those styles. You can look for wholesome colors. These were Lafarge colors. Wholesome colors are different. Now they are these. So you can look for the colors that suits your dashboard. Then if you don't need any of those, you can right click on what is appearing. Actually, it is not right clicking. You come here and you say, create a new slice style. You create your own style. Now you come and start. Whole slicer.
It's a bit like weekends and weekdays.
Now that is something different because this slicer may not give you that. That is something different. It may not ping out. That is another condition where we shall put a formula in the condition, but with time we shall go through that. I don't want to bring heaven.
Another thing is getting sweeter. No? When
excitement
grows, that's what happens.
If you need to change colors, you always come on use slice style, and you can go ahead and change colors. That what should my headers carry? When you click on the header, you go to format. You do all the formatting for the heading. It is done. If I have selected items with data, you click on it. Now these are the selected items. You go to format, you go to fill, you'll find there is another color. You can change this color to red and okay and okay. So when I select, this was border. So it has brought the border as red. So that was border. So you can go ahead and do a lot of changes. Try that. I dare you try that. It will be the best. Okay, here we go. So when you select the selected, because we said what we select, we need it as red. It is, but we have lost the other formattings because we have not done an adjustment. If you always need to start from somewhere, like we need to start from here, you can always right click on this and duplicate it. The moment you duplicate it, call it your name. You can call it Ivan because it is yours. Then you start. Others, I can leave them, but what I want to select should always show a green. Here on fill, you select a green, okay. Then you go ahead. If hovering also is also another thing. Like if I always hover is passing a cursor. So if I always hover, it should show purple. And we go ahead and do okay and okay. And we should refresh this. This is it we have worked on. So which means when you click, you see when you select it, it is green. If I do shift up to here, it is green. But if I pass the cursor, it goes to purple, you see? When I'm passing the cursor, because those settings I've done the other side. So you can do whatever you want, you customize your own, which is this I customized and called it Ivan. So you can do the custom, that is done. Now, the last part, let's look at dates have another option, which we call timeline. So instead of showing a slicer, for it, it has also timeline. So if I click on my pivot again, we go to day. When I right click on day, there is an option of creating a timeline. So when I say add a timeline, it will always add this timeline. In other words, if you are dealing with many months, so like this timeline, which means if I have like many months and I say click on September, it will always give me only September. But since we don't have September, it is not showing up here. So I can come here, change this to days. It will change to days. Now, you know the beauty that is with this? The beauty with this, it is just dragging. So if you drag from, let's say you drag from 30th backwards to 17th, it will, hey, this is September. We don't have September, right? We undo, then we all periods and days. 13th, it will give us 13th. I think it is stuck in September. Just a moment. It is stuck in September. Delete this. Let me repeat this. Right click. Let's do now using a date because it will work for the slicer. So when you right click, add a timeline, it will always add a timeline. So here it is showing all the periods. I will say show days. So these are the days. And the filter, first of all, months. Which month do we have? Which data? We have April. So I can select April, then go to days. So which means I'm receiving my days. So the moment I click on that, it will only give me that. This is that. Ideally, when I drag, you can drag this to 60 to add 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. You drag, it does that. So this one, we shall look into how we can customize it, eliminate all this, such that it remains like a bar. You put it on your dashboard, so you only keep dragging as you're looking at data. Like from 1st to 15th, you drag. From 1st to 7th, you just drag. And it will show you data for 1st to 7th. So you see here, 1st to 7th, it is giving us 318. Let's test this with our slicer from 1st to 7th. It was 1st to 7th, 1st to 6th. It was 1st to 16th, 318. So here we go. So still here when you say from 1st to 7th, ideally, 1st ends here, 2nd ends here like that, because we have started, this is taken to be like a 0. So that's how we use a timeline. A timeline only works for anything to do with time. Either it is a day, or it is a date, or it is time. But beyond that, you go for a slicer. Any questions? We have 7 minutes. Any questions? I think I will not go beyond that. There is a lot we have to go through. That one will be tomorrow. where we are going to see if we want to combine to attach this slicer to all these pivots, what do we do? You can go ahead and use it as your homework. You always come here to report connections. You'll find there all the pivots. So you only see now there is only one pivot that is ticked, which means that this slicer can only work for this pivot. But if you select the second, it means that the slicer has now worked also for this. The moment I select it, changes both this and this. And even when you go to the graph, you'll find the graph is changing. You see, the graph is also changing automatically just because of one slicer. So you can go ahead and add all your 20 pivots on one slicer. You put the slice on the dashboard, you put graphs from different slicers. The moment you click, it will automatically be changing everything. So guys, that is it. I will need questions in the last 5 minutes. Some of us are still away from home, so we shall have to commute. But okay, let's go through the comments. Someone in charge of SAP must be.
We only have appreciation in this session.
You,
No questions.
I see everyone is saying Vajabaloga. No, you just keep upskilling. Vajakukkiriza just.
I just want to talk to HR and the SD, the supply chain director, to see the training. Someone has to sign a commitment for another 2 years, because I may be seeing people after getting this.
Wait,
but it's a
open
good
our
one.
own consult firms.
So yeah, we can have questions coming through because we have a recording which we have to respect. Then we can, when we feel the questions are not there, we can switch off the recording and finish our minutes. But otherwise, this, I think now, if we are to look at what we have not done, because I didn't want to bring in this so early, is calculated field, which we shall do tomorrow. I think tomorrow we should be wrapping up pivot tables. And another thing, team, we are not doing this to make sure that we shall leave when you have understood everything. We are going forward. That's why we are recording this call, for you to do the practice. Obviously, we can't have everything done in these sessions. Then the other sessions, when we reach graphs, that will be next week. I think this must not be, it must be like a must attend, because the moment you miss this, you're going to miss a lot. So everything we shall do in the next week will be coming from these pivot tables. So practice as more as you can. Tomorrow come with more questions as you can, because what we have picked from today is going to be used next week so much, because it is next week when we shall start, we shall work out with how you design a dashboard and the principles you take when you're coming out with a summary report on one page.
Chris, isn't next week the end month week?
A quick question, yes. It is,
yeah.
on the 30th.
Actually, the end month week, that one was cancelled out, I guess. Thanks for the reminder. So it will be a request on demand, but we shall leave it for end month close. Right?
How about if we get a day outside, Tuesday and Wednesday, after? If the team is
Susie.
Yeah.
We have other classes.
Yes, that's why.
Committed to this one.
And I don't want people to miss, because people have already dedicated their schedules for this Tuesday and Wednesday. A day outside that is different on our calendars. Some calendars look sharpy. So I think we shall take the norm. We can have a break. Maybe we can have a session at some point. But tomorrow let's conclusively spread out everything, ask as many questions as we can. Then for that break of a week, close month, we shall be sharing with each other practice files and the best practices everyone has done on their end. But we shall keep it for close month, end of month close. So we still have 2 minutes. Can I give you back the 2 minutes, or you want to consume them? So Susan, you can, if questions are no longer coming through, you